Thank you all so much for your patience as we sort this out. So you want to kind of do the introduction and kind of talk about kind of just the general outline of the month, like talk about the outer and inner thing, and then we can move into activity. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Rachel, and this is Shifa. And today we're going to be guiding an interfaith welcome into the season of Ramadan. So before we start, just in case there are any people who need a quick overview of what Ramadan is, we'll do that, and then Shifa will offer some much more meaningful reflections, and then we'll go into the group activity. All right, so Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar, and since the Islamic calendar is shorter than the Gregorian calendar, Ramadan falls on a different time every year. So if you're like, this is a different time than when they did it last year, that's how it is. And Ramadan commemorates the month in which the Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And it actually states in the Quran that you should observe Ramadan and fast during the month in commemorance of the revelation of the Quran. And so this is the verse. I'm not going to read the entire thing to you, but it outlines it in one of the surahs, chapter 2, verse 185. It's a little cut off, but. And then just the classic, like what Muslims do during Ramadan, fasting from sunrise to sunset. But it's not just a time for fasting. It's a time for increased prayer and spiritual reflection, giving to charity, community gatherings, iftars, things like that. It's meant to bring communities together, a time for seeking forgiveness and seeking self-improvement. And here are the quotes. So Shifa, now I'll give it to you so you can kind of talk more about what it means to you as an actual Muslim.
Of course. Thank you so much again for just introducing us to kind of the general outline of what the month means. I will say from a personal perspective, as someone who's been practicing Muslim for 5 years now, this is Ramadan number 5 for me. I will say each time I come into this month and come out, I feel like there's a new level of transformation that I feel I can endure with regards to not just what this, not just the fact that I'm able to cultivate at least a time of, discipline, but to gain a greater awareness and mindfulness of the presence of Allah, the presence of the divine, the presence of the most high and most compassionate, and being able to emulate that into the world. One of the sources that I've been reading as of recently to help cultivate this is this book that's open for people who are interested, Secrets of Divine Love by A. Halawa. She's someone who pulls from a multitude of resources and talking about both the Islamic faith, but also generating new ideas about faith as a whole, and kind of cultivating a deeper relationship to the all-pervasive lovingness of the divine. And so this quote here talks about al-Hawa, and we see that fasting from the world to cultivate God consciousness is the foundation for receiving and understanding divine revelation. Just as the usefulness of a bowl as a vessel comes from its emptiness, when we empty ourselves of the self in the world, we are able to be filled with Allah. Fasting is more than just abstaining from physical desires. It is entirely transcending the self so that the seeker can stand before a singular God. So as we see, this is cultivating what we call our inner fitra, or the nature of ourselves of who we were before we were born. You see, one of the distinctions I find, at least in considering Islam compared to Christianity, is that there's no concept of a doctrine of original sin. It's truly, when we're all born, we are all born with a nature of seeking we're all born with a nature of already being connected to God. But as we move through our life and tests, we continually become, distracted or clouded, or things kind of come to us that, kind of take us away from our innate nature of being connected with God. So I'll go through the next slide. Yes, and as they describe at least a little bit more here, there's 3 levels to Ramadan that kind of comes in terms of cultivating the practice, and this is something that all people can be able to participate and contribute in this month as well. The first is the general outer fast. When it comes, and this first is the outer fast, meaning the fast that comes with our body and with our limbs, things are observable. Then there's the inner fast, where we are a lot more attentive to how we both consume and produce within the world and how well that emulates and reflects the divine. And then going deeper into the heart center fast and being closer to what is called ihsan, or perfection, or which the Prophet Muhammad and in a hadith, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, recorded in the hadith, the heart center fast is cultivating ihsan, which means worshiping God as though we see him. So I'll explain that a little bit more in the next slide. If we get it. Yes, so at the end of the day, the outer fast weakens the physical strength of the ego, allowing the spirit to regain control. Now, this is mostly outlined a lot of times in this book through different stories, so I'll read some stories that can help illuminate the primary ethos of this season. So a lot of what we do in Ramadan is cultivating the practice of letting go, of relinquishing, of things that we need us, but in order to, in essence, detoxify anything among us that feel like needs to be detoxified through abstaining from food, from water, and sexual gratification, like during the daytime hours for people. It describes the fact is that our addictions oftentimes enslave us. Our attachments to our desires enslave us. Allah only calls us to let go of the things that weigh us down and prevent us from being truly free. The following story beautifully demonstrates how learning to let go and detach from our desires leads to freedom. In order to catch monkeys in certain Asian villages, hunters carve a hole in a coconut shell and fill the hole with peanuts. The hole is just big enough for the monkey's hand to go inside, but small enough that when the monkey makes a fist to grab the peanuts, its hand gets stuck. All the monkey has to do to escape is to let go of the peanuts and pull its hand out. However, even as the hunters approach the quote trapped monkeys, they do not let go of the peanuts, resulting in being caught. So a lot of times this Ramadan period is really testing for us for the things that we are deeply attached to, not just the things that we maintain that are in this world, but showing us that our liberation really does come from the relinquishment of it, like the monkey being stuck in the coconut shell, being like, I can't get out, but the only thing they need to let go of is just letting go of the peanut. So that's kind of a lot of what comes when it comes to cultivating the outer fast and what that maintains in terms of controlling the ego and relinquishing things so that we can truly become free. The second level is the inner sense, which is purifying the senses and thoughts from anything that does not bring one closer to God. So on top of the general kind of practice of abstaining from food and water during this month, we also try to abstain from stuff that we consume that is not cultivating us into greater taqwa. Whether that be the things that we watch, the things that we hear, the things that we say, the things that are reflected in our body that are cultivating from us in that. Cultivating a deeper level of an inner fast involves being mindful of the ways that what we do, how is that emulating towards a reflection of God. Another story, here's a profound parable from the Cherokee people that exemplifies the inner war that oftentimes happens between the ego and the spirit that an inner fast would seek to mediate. A Cherokee elder explained to his grandson, every person has a war inside their hearts between two wolves. The first wolf is evil and creates conflict by inspiring greed, envy, lust, arrogance, pride, hatred, and fear through an overemphasis of the ego. The second wolf is good, fostering peace and unity through a state of God consciousness. The wide-eyed grandson replied, "Who will win this battle, grandfather?" The wise elder replied, "The one you feed." In essence, what this kind of shows us is this month is the opportunity to really show us how much are we feeding into, how much of ourselves are we feeding into what is cultivating us to a greater degree of goodness and greater clarity and greater sense of God consciousness, and we're building a relationship with God compared to what is keeping us attached to the things of the world, the things that are keeping us away from God, that are keeping us clouded, that are keeping us distracted from mindfulness of all that really exists in the world, and encouraging us to cultivate deeper mindfulness of that. The final stage of the fast is a heart-centered fast, being a continuous state of worship with the divine, where every action then becomes worship. As I mentioned, this is cultivating us into a greater Isan. And in this union, we become fully present in emptying ourselves, when we empty ourselves in the outer fast and the inner fast from things that are not aligning ourselves, we become a pure mirror that reflects God's light. To cultivate this deeper level comes with continual practice and continual cultivation into reflecting the goodness of, what it entails. So this is oftentimes, this is really shown in terms of what can a heart-centered fast, really look like and mold itself into the world when the month is all said and done. How do we know that we truly transformed it into a heart-centered fast? One story that beautifully captures how we fast from all other. What our hearts do is turn towards a more compassionate and loving towards all creation. A mystic by the name of Mansour, who was fasting a month before Ramadan, was walking to the mosque when he passed a group of lepers who were eating leftovers from the trash. One of them invited the well-known mystic over to eat lunch with him. The mystic said, "Are you sure? I don't want to be an inconvenience to you." The man assured them that he would be honored to eat with such a famous scholar. Mansour accepted the offer and sat down with the old leper on the floor as he prepared the meal. The leper turned to his guest and said sadly, "Are you not afraid of us? We often invite the imams we see going to the mosque to break bread with us, but none of them ever do." The sweet mystic smiled softly at the man and said, "That is because they are most likely fasting." The leper replied, "But aren't you a religious man? Aren't you God-fearing? Why then are you not fasting extra fast before Ramadan?" The mystic smiled and said, "Yes, surely I love God, and today I have the good pleasure to eat with you." The leper smiled, and together they enjoyed a few bites of food. When the call to prayer rang, Mansour got up, lovingly embraced the leper in gratitude, and headed to the mosque for afternoon prayers. After the sun set, Mansour prayed, "Thank you for Allah for the opportunity to serve you. May you accept my fast today." A few scholars overheard Mansour's prayer and turned to him and say, "Mansour, we saw you were eating with the lepers today. You are a hypocrite and a liar for trying to come across as more righteous than you are." Mansour turned to them humbly and said, "I may have broken my fast, but I did not break a heart. You tell me which Allah will forgive more easily, a fast we have broken out of love, or a heart we have broken out of self-righteousness." So this, at the end of the day, cultivates the essence. At the result of fasting, if after we get done with fasting from whatever we're relinquishing our desires and whatever season we take, if it makes us more closed-minded and judgmental, it's not really for Allah. It's not really for cultivating a deeper connection for Allah. It's for ourselves and how we want to be perceived in the world. It is through sincerity and love, truly, that the heart is able to experience God. So in this heart-centered fast, we cultivate a deeper sense of remembrance. And that remembrance manifests itself in not just how we show up for ourselves, but how we show up in the world around us. So these are the three levels of the fast, and inshallah, this time brings a lot of reward and period for those who are participating and also those who aren't, to cultivate just a question that we come away with. In what ways am I aligning myself with more compassion and love during this time? In what ways am I aligning myself too much with my own desires, my own ego, my own self-serving needs in this time as well? So once we do this activity, which Rachel can hopefully guide us through, hopefully we can come to learn about, what that means for us and how we can take this month with greater reward and greater ease and clarity.
I'm just always in awe of the wonderful wisdom that comes out of Shifa. So thank you again for your just amazing words and thoughts. So what you have what's in the middle of the table, and so probably have to grab it and then pass it around. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little activity that's like a seasonal intention setting activity. So it's in the spirit of Ramadan, and it's just a way to challenge ourselves to all think about a way that we can better ourselves within this season of time. I think it's also worth mentioning that this is also Lent, so some of us are fasting in another way during this time, so this is really a spiritually rich time. So how are we going to capitalize on that over the next month is kind of what the purpose of this activity is. So on one side you have questions, which you can fill out or you can answer them in your heart. What are some ways you want to be intentional about connecting with the divine this month? The second one, what are things you're abstaining from for spiritual reasons this season? And then finally, what are some blessings you hope to receive? And what about to give? And then whenever you want to, on the other side, there's kind of like a goal tracking chart thing where you can put in if there's a daily habit that you want to start over the month, or maybe you just want to track what days you successfully fasted from gossip or something like that. You can just write in those goals, and then throughout the month, for every day that you attain that goal, you can color it in. And so hopefully by the end of the month, you'll have a little beautiful garden on your page, basically. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Let's take about 1 more minute to finish up what we need to write. Okay, let's finish up and give our final thoughts. We'll wrap it up. Just also feel free to finish after we're done. So yeah, thank you so much for participating in this activity. We hope it provides as much clarity, ease, and benefit for yourself as much as it is for us to be present among y'all and being here in this chapel. Yeah, if anyone is interested, I would be curious if anyone is willing to share. No pressure if it's something you want to keep for yourself either. But if anyone would like to share some things that they wrote about in light of this, we are interested in opening up for any volunteers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shifa and Rachel. So this is my first time. I know we're not supposed to be like super public, but as a non-practicing Muslim, I'm observing Ramadan for the first time this year. And aside from the food, I'm trying to like talk less, hence the microphone. Yeah, I'm just trying to like be more mindful about how often I'm spending energy on like speaking, because I'm finding that that's taking a lot of energy. And so in just the few days that I've been observing, I'm like, do I need to say this? Or is this kind of costing me more kind of, and also thoughts too. So just thinking about kind of how often that I'm speaking and how I can like fast from not sharing everything that's in this brain of mine. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think something that came up to me, I started fasting Ramadan around the age of 12, 13, so this is like forever, but this is something coming up for me. This Ramadan is the most difficult in terms of my body strength and my spirit, and like trying to think about the challenge of always trying to ground myself. I think something I'm trying to do is cultivate a sense of hope, because I've been struggling with that, with being hopeful, and also abstaining from talking, because it really takes a lot of energy, and also seeking healing, even though my body is weak because of my health, and I still fast, hoping that it will bring me healing at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all so much for people who were willing to share, and inshallah, God willing, that you continue to become strengthened with your intention that you set, and being able to cultivate that in daily practice during this month, that you're able to find hope and greater mindfulness about the things you think, the things you share, the things you embody, all of those things. I hope you receive like a lot greater benefit. And for those who didn't share, whatever your goals and intentions are, inshallah, I make dua for all of you to gain a greater sense of clarity and ease, and fulfilling what intentions you have set. Intention is the most important part of Islamic practice, if you aren't familiar. So and hopefully it's something that you can continue to cultivate. And yeah, did you have any other final words you want to send off? Well, I just want to end in saying assalamu alaikum. May peace and blessings be upon all of you. And may you go forth from this space with a greater heart that's more overfilled and flowing and emptied of things that are not serving us, that we all receive, benefit, Muslim, non-Muslim alike, during this blessed time, and that you continue to receive greater blessings. Thank you so much.
May you have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.